Travis Wing did so. So as Elon Musk is tanking Twitter, YouTube's tanking themselves by all the advertising they flood us with, which all of these commercial businesses have their own channel on YouTube, of which they can be a part of the partner program to get their money that way. But nope, YouTube wants to trash YouTube. And what's worse is that I was wanting to listen to a song, I put it on a loop because I want to listen to it over and over and over and over and over. And YouTube says, no. We're forcing you to watch a commercial at the end of the song. And then they stop the loop. It's like they don't want me to watch YouTube the way I want to watch YouTube. They're forcing me, taking away my agency, to watch YouTube the way they want me to watch it. And I just rebel. I want nothing to do with those businesses. They are the enemy because they disrespect me. And YouTube disrespects me. And they don't give a damn. So, pleasant morning, isn't it? So, I focus on Mormonism, though ex-Mormons should be able to understand what I'm talking about and hopefully correct the misinformation that they too have been given. And occasionally I'll have Christians come because they've been influenced to a Mormon in their life, or they want to know more, and they're hearing the rumors, but they want, confirmation. But as much as they're grateful for my information about Mormonism, they then think that they can convert me. And express their beliefs, just like Mormons do, just as ex-Mormons do. And sorry guys, my education covers all religions, and so I don't mess with you until you step onto my turf and try to mess with me. And the one thing that Christians cannot come to grips with is the factual history of Constantine. They are aware of him, but they don't put the pieces of the puzzle together. Because Constantine was 325 CE. The Nicene Council, Nicene Creed, that created Christianity, that created Jesus. And they think that they can impose Constantine's Christianity back to the scriptures, which were Jewish, not Christian. You're changing scripture just as Constantine did, and you're doing what's called an anachronism. You cannot interpret the scripture through the beer goggles of Christianity. Plain and simple. Just as Mormons cannot view Joseph Smith through the beer goggles of Brigham Young's branch off. You can't do it. You're going to screw up. You're going to make errors. You're going to lie. If you're going to study Joseph Smith, you've got to study Joseph Smith. You cannot study Joseph Smith with your Brigham Young bias. And so, in the scriptures, they are prophecies of the latter days. And I'm going to go over the 3 days of darkness, the 3 darkness periods, because the Gospels have 3 hours rather than 3 days. But they're all talking about the same event. They're just telling it in different story forms. And that's what nobody is getting, is because when you're doing any kind of research, you look for patterns. And then when you find anomalies, you develop a theory that can be tested. Not hypothetically tested if certain conditions were met. No, that's not a sound theory. You have to dismiss those. Like the Big Bang. Sorry, we can't reproduce the Big Bang, therefore you have to dismiss the theory. You can't say, well, if the conditions were available for us, and we wouldn't be exterminated if we dared to try it. No, you gotta get rid of that theory. It's false. It's unsound. Come up with something else. Try the vegetation theory. That's worked for many millennia. Why are you wanting to change what has already been confirmed and established as the legitimate theory to believe in? Nonetheless, so the first 3 days of darkness is it's a little tricky, because there's the concept of darkness of the sun goes back to the Egyptians, and it corresponds with the eyes of Horus. And the two eyes of Horus are the Egyptian word PTR. There are no vowels, but if you were to put vowels in, the most common vowels that science scholars put in are E's. So yes, Peter. Peter is the word for seer in Egyptian. So yes, Joseph Smith knew exactly what he was talking about when he put in the Joseph Smith translation concerning, upon this rock I will build my church, and puts in seer in there, and the church doesn't want you to know about that. I tried to get them to put an Egyptian seer Peter equals seer, but nope. They had foreign language experts that would handle that. Yeah, they didn't handle anything. But nonetheless, I tried, and it's in their big file cabinet. It's still there. But unless they've finally thrown away all those filing cabinets, which wouldn't surprise me, but they swore they would never do that. But nonetheless, so the right eye is for government and is for the sun. So solar eclipses, if you blind the right eye. Left eye, religion. And the moon for lunar eclipses. And so, as the story of Horus goes, he is raised in the wilderness with his widowed mother to be prepared to go back to restore the kingdom from his uncle, who had murdered his father and usurped the kingdom. And this has been an apocalyptic story that is carried over into all religions and cultures and scripture stories of all the various religions. As anytime you come across somebody who's blind, like the three old ladies in Wrath of the Titan, or the Clash of the Titans, and then the reboot was Clash and Wrath. There's the witches who had the eye to see. That's where that comes from, is that concept of seer. And so when the scriptures talk about the sun shall be dark and moon turn to blood, that's what they're referring to, is a collapse of government and religion. And that concept of Horus needing to restore the original government and religion that has been usurped. And so in the Mormon Church, Joseph Smith was the one who was assassinated by his brothers, and they usurped his church. And so Joseph Smith puts it in his scriptures that his church will be restored by a future man like Moses, one mighty and strong, a Mormon who would rise up to take it back. Unfortunately, Mormons rebel, and they don't want to leave out of bondage. They love bondage. It's the new black. Bondage is the new black. No more pink being the new black. So being Mr. Pink is no longer cool. And so other stories will talk about blind prophets. Isaac, for example, is portrayed as being blind when he usurps the birthright blessing from Esau to give it to Jacob. And then, of course, the author has to put in, I knew what I was doing. Everything's fine. I knew. But in blessings, if you call Jacob Esau, it's still for Esau, even though Jacob fooled you. But nonetheless, that's not technically what's required in there. It's not a real story. It's an apocalyptic literature. It's prophecies using symbolisms through storytelling. And so the father, being blind, talks about Jacob usurping the birthright and blessing, and thus a son through his lineage will restore it back to the original, that being Joseph in the Genesis book. And so Jacob technically is still the bad guy. He's not the good guy whatsoever, because he's the one who stole it away from Esau, the rightful one, even though Isaac also usurped it from his stepbrother Ishmael. But yes, that's the pattern in Genesis, is that, you know, the rightful heir gets murdered and usurped, and then his son usurps the birthright blessing, and then his son usurps the birthright blessing until you finally end with Joseph. Even though you find out that he had Ephraim and Manasseh, and Ephraim usurped it from Manasseh. And so, with the Exodus, then, you have plagues that are in popular summation. And one of those is 3 days of darkness. And as Deuteronomy 18:15 through 19 tells us, as a prophecy, that in the latter days there will be a man like Moses. So the Moses story of the Exodus is, again, an apocalyptic literature symbolizing through story form about this future Horus character, this Christ, who is to restore the usurped kingdom. And again, Joseph Smith is saying that that's going to be a Mormon for his church. And then, and so, in Matthew, you have a 3 hours of darkness that are involved with the death of Jesus. Again, this didn't happen. Don't impose Christianity back onto Jewish literature. That's an anachronism. You've got to look at it for what it is, apocalyptic literature. And you look for the patterns, and the anomaly is that it's 3 hours rather than 3 days. And so when you understand the context, it's easily explained as being the exact same thing, because you have the cross, which is the darkness time period of the latter days, as we go into other stories that further confirm this. The 21st of August 2017 and the 8th of April 2024, they crossed over America, and that's where the concept of the cross comes from, as Paleo-Hebrew has the last letter, Tau, as a cross. And so Jesus is merely being used in story form to talk about the signs in the heavens and the dates of these signs in the heavens. Sorry, Matthew. Kind of blew it when you said no man knows the day or the hour. You gave it to us. So yes, we now know that a redactor later on came in and altered it, putting in those additions that no man knows the day or the hour. Because the original document, it's right there. What do you mean no man knows? You gave it to us. You gave it to us in 2nd Nephi, or 2nd chapter 2, Matthew chapter 2, verse 1. And then you went on to tell us that the last date as well, 8 April 2024. Because the birth sign is also all over the place. Isaiah talks about it. Revelation chapter 12 talks about it. And so Revelation 19 confirms the final date of the 3rd day of darkness as the angel standing in the sun on the back of a white horse, which is Pisces. 8 April 2024. And so the death of the Lamb, when you know Revelation 12 says that the Lamb is the man-child, and thus the sign in the heavens makes him Jupiter, who retrogrades for a pregnancy period, then you're looking for Jupiter to be in Aries, the Ram constellation. And sure enough, 8 April 2024 confirms this. So John is giving us the date from the signs in the heavens through story form. And then Samson, with the stories of Samson, I've gone over with you time and time again. Shemesh, SMS, is the Hebrew word for son. And I'm the one who deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. So the N is what's called a suffix determinative, and for a person it's king, for a place it's kingdom. And so Samson is the sun king. And here you have 3 deaths that occur in the story of Samson, and those confirm the latter day 3 days of darkness. As the first one is the lion that is killed by Samson. So 21st of August 2017 occurred at the King Star Regis for the constellation Leo. And then the next one was his wife and her father being murdered by fire. And so on 14 October 2023, the bicentennial year of the day that shall burn as an oven, we have the solar eclipse, annular eclipse, the ring of fire eclipse in Virgo. Ta-da! And so then the last one, Samson dies, but so do the Philistines. You got to remember that. And so Samson is Jupiter, who's in Aries, and the Philistines are the actual ones who are taken out. They're the solar eclipse. As Samson also is the symbol of Jesus. who dies as well. And unfortunately, the gospel stories kind of gets it messed up because the Romans aren't destroyed. Kind of have to have them destroyed if you're going to write their story. But they wrote it in a different manner. They were focused on the date rather than on the symbolism behind the concept of taking back the throne that's been usurped. And so I hope now you can see how all of this plays out. And you then can read Abraham sacrificing Isaac at the top of the mountain. And the messenger appears. The messenger is Mercury, the messenger of the gods. And then a ram appears. As you read the story, he's talking about a lamb. And then ram is the one that gets sacrificed. It's the same concept. It's the same pattern. But the date is different. It's not before the latter days. It's 8 April, but not 2024. Just 4 CE. It was an eclipse that occurred over Russia. And so when you read from the Book of Mormon, as they're quoting Revelation 12 in 1 Nephi chapter 1 and Revelation 19 in 3 Nephi chapter 11, telling it in a different story form for us, you have the book telling us that the Messiah will come 600 years from the time Lehi left Jerusalem. Well, that's the Exodus, is what they're referring to, the date of the Exodus. But they're kind of being sneaky and encoding it for us. We have to do some research. And so, as literal history, Zedekiah took the throne in 597 BCE. And so that's the first year. And so 600 years from that is 4 CE, because there's no 0 year. You go from 1 BC to 180. And so 4 CE. And it's on 8 April, which is 2020 years before 2024, which is the final day of darkness, the end of the latter days. But 2020, ta-da! When you look at the Exodus story, there's creeping death that occurs that year. There's drought that occurs. And the parting of the waters and passing through on dry land. 2020 was supposed to be the Exodus. And Mormons rebelled and missed it. They'd rather be in bondage to Jesus. When you yoke yourself to Jesus, you have power. How many Mormons fell for that? All of you? How many of you ex-Mormons missed it? All of you? And despite that, I still did the videos to warn you and make fun of Nelson. But yeah, we had the second harvest this year, being 2 years later, right in between 2020 and 2024, and you missed it. And so now what you're looking for is the destruction of the United States. And it looks like we're going to possibly could avoid civil war. There's still an option for that to happen, and the division of the states seceding from the nation and forming their own nations and forming a coalition of those who are on their side and warring against those who aren't and kicking out those who are, or rebelling and fighting against the... So there's still time for all of that to happen. But yeah, the climate change disasters, that's what the Book of Mormon warns us of, is that there are going to be climate disasters. And the survivors make it to Zion, bountiful in the Book of Mormon, at 8 April 2024. But oops, no temple, because nobody went to go build it during the Exodus periods. And so the Book of Mormon has been proven wrong by Mormons. Good job, Mormons. You've proven the Book of Mormon false. As you get up at testimony meeting, and we're getting near the first week of December, first Sunday of December, where you're going to get up at the rammy-umptums of the church and cry, saying, "Oh, the church is so true, the Book of Mormon, I love it, it's so literal history." No, you can't do that. It's not literal history. You're denying science. And it's strange that Mormons are so defensive that it has to be literal history, that it has to defy science, that science must change in order to maintain their belief systems. Just free yourself. Let the truth set you free. They won't do it. No. The mac and cheese commercial. One more bite. No. And then the one where the boy says, "I'm allergic to all things green." And the mother at the kitchen sink, she just sulks down. Oh, hilarious. So, yeah. The scriptures are all prophesying about the same time period. And so that's what you want to do with your study, is go through the stories and find the patterns. And then the anomalies, you then check with the big picture that we've already are almost finished with, to see how it would actually fit in. So when the Book of Mormon says, according to the according to the prophecies of Enoch, this happened. According to the prophecies of Neum, this happened, etc. So every prophecy has additional information that must be factored in. And so, yeah, I've already gone over with you who the Christ is supposed to be. He's the sun god from the crossroads. But are you looking for him? No. Because you'd rather be yoked in bondage to Jesus